you doing, everyone? It is Sunday night, 8 o'clock, or wherever you're watching. It's time for motherfucking broadcast. I'm Billy Kirkwood. I hope you're bloody well during this time. Hope you're having a good time with this dreich weather before where I am in Scotland. I'm pretty sure we're going to float away at this point because we're under so many torrential rains, snows, everything else, hails, tornadoes, red shoes, hurricanes, flying witches. It's all happening right here in Scotland just now. So I hope you're safe and I hope you're cool wherever you are. But Billy, what the bloody hell is Braw Cast? Well, if you've been before, you know how it is. But if you've never been before, you're more than welcome. Let me explain. Not only is it a podcast sponsored by the Sex MFers at Braw Beard Oils. Thank you very much for them. They help bring this free to you each and every Sunday. But it's a lifestyle podcast. It's an attitude podcast. Not only do we get to talk to our bearded brothers and sisters from the Braw universe, yes, but we've opened it up. And the way it works is now is we get to talk to interesting individuals from all around the world on a variety of different topics. We've got to talk to MMA fighters. We've got to talk to comedians, actors, entrepreneurs, BDSM models, and so much more. We bring you something different each and every week. And if you enjoy the show, if this is your type of thing, here's what you can do. You can show your support. You can subscribe wherever you're watching, whether it's on YouTube. You can check out the archive episodes over on Spotify. And you can head over to Braw Beard Oils. Head over there right now. Why don't you go and get yourself a little treat? Why don't you get yourself a beard oil, comb, neck, trouser, gaiter? That's what it is. Neck, gaiter, anything at all. Some amazing t-shirts for any type of individuals. And it's a lovely ladies range over there as well. So don't read anything into that. It's not, you don't have oils for ladies' hair. Or maybe that's something we could work on. Turned out more awkward than I was planning. Right. We like to bring you these themed months, and after doing Wrestling Month and Music Month and Art Month and so many other things, we thought here we are in February 2022, and thought we'd have ourselves a mental health month. More of a mental health check and what have you, more of a discussion. We're sort of opening up a bit. You know we're big advocates here on Broadcast, and what we're going to do is, well, you know, no topic will be off the table necessarily, but what we're going to do is we're going to try and look at it with our own energy and our own positivity and do what we can. So it's just giving you that little warning before we go in. But listen, I think you're going to get something very special from these episodes. Now, I'm very excited to bring on my first guest. Now, I've known this young man for quite a few years and I've tracked his career. Not only is he very active on Twitch, not only is he a wrestler, but he's also a mental health advocate. He works in security all around Glasgow, which is not an easy job. So we're just going to have a little discussion to kick off this month. And I'm very excited. It's occurred to me, do I call him by his real name or his wrestling name? I'm going to call him by his real name. I could see him currently looking in the green room going, we didn't discuss that. So I'm going to call him by his real name. And hopefully he doesn't beat the piss out of me because he is considerably bigger than me. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome my special guest today? Let's hear it for the wonderful Mr. Barry Carruthers. Barry.
How's it going, man?
How the bloody hell are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hopefully, I just occurred to me in the middle. I mean, obviously, I know you as Eli Bulworth and Barry Carruthers, but it occurred to me, it's like, I did not ask the question. Nah, so we'll go with Barry today, I think.
Barry's absolutely fine. Not a problem.
Now, just as a little asterisk on this, you were working on the doors in security last night. So what time did you get home this morning?
Just after 4 a.m.
Bloody hell. And we were having a little discussion about, because obviously here in Scotland, wherever you're watching this around the world, I know it's all very different, but here in Scotland, nightclubs have only been back open, nightclubs and bars have only been back open, what is it, 2 weeks, a fortnight?
For the most part, yeah. A lot of them had to shut down. A lot of them had to go to table service and stuff. So it's been really, it's not really been a nightclub atmosphere at all. So it's only just getting back to that degree of people getting to party again.
Now, how have you found it during that time? Because it's an interest. It's always a job that's fascinated me because the amount of steps that you guys need to take, and you just have to have a set of eyes ringing around your head, really, just in terms of what you're doing. But how have you found that people have been since things have opened up again, things have came out? Because there was at least a good, I'm trying to get my numbers right here. There was at least a good year period nearly where nightclubs especially were just completely closed. It was not happening. How has it been since people have been back out?
It's been interesting. I think one of the big things I would say is that there's a lot of people who previously to lockdown were maybe underage to come out drinking or anything like that. And it's one of the biggest things I've noticed is there's a lot of sort of 18, 19-year-olds coming out onto the scene who really don't know how to act and how to socialise properly. And even people who's used to going out, like they're forgetting how to socialise because they've been indoors for so long. But there's still it brings its difficulties because some people can misbehave and some people can bring their problems. But by and large, it's our job to sort of teach them the ropes in a respectful way.
And obviously you guys are keeping an eye out for people's safety, not only their physical safety but their their mental safety in these type of situations as well. It's a vastly underrated job that you've got to do a lot of training in. Is that right?
There is a fair degree of it. I mean, I first ventured into security about 10, 11 years ago now. So wow. I've been doing it since I was 18. And there's a lot of things that you sort of pick up on the job. I mean, it's very easy to go in and do a week's course and then think that's you're fully qualified. There's so much more to learn, and what they teach you on the course isn't really how you deal with your everyday situations. I can promise you that. There definitely has been, especially something I think I should actually mention is there's definitely been an increase in people who have maybe had like panic attacks and stuff on nights out. I've noticed that much more coming out of lockdown that, again, I just think people's been that used to having to get used to life on a lockdown, like by themselves or with very limited people around them, and suddenly they're in a nightclub with 500 people or more, and I think sometimes that's maybe a bit overwhelming for some people. So definitely something, it's an interesting point when you mentioned about looking after their mental health. It's definitely something we've had to look after a bit more than we would have before lockdown as well.
Well, it's certainly something that I've realised. I've been out performing again, and I feel relatively safe in the comedy environment. Don't get me wrong; when I'm doing things and the wrestling things, I'm able to keep a distance in the right way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
we have to more than anything. I make sure face coverings and hands are done, and I'm just keeping my distance when I can. But I totally get it, because I remember and this is going to sound odd, the first time I went to the St. Enoch Centre when everything kind of opened back up, and it was so busy, and I remember going, I don't like this. Like, I am not used to this. And it was the first time ever that I kind of went, and I said to my good lady wife who was with me, it's like, can we go? Like, I'd rather go somewhere else. It's not a knock at the good people at the St. Enoch Centre, but come on, since she's got rid of the Disney shop, what is the point?
It's just to be there.
I've got no reason. Millie's Cookies, the only reason I'm going in.
Let's go to Braehead,
I'm a Braehead boy now. That's all I've got to say. Actually, they've got the rip-off Hot Topic upstairs, which I'm sorry if they are watching. The rip-off Hot Topic upstairs, which is pretty good for t-shirts. We'll leave that there. We'll leave that there. But in terms of people's, we have to talk a little bit about mental health, because certainly I know it's affected so many people that will be watching the show right now, and it's certainly affected me. And by that, I don't necessarily mean that anyone has gone to the extent of having like a breakdown or has gone whole hog, but certainly it's a Fabergé egg in terms of, like, I think during the last couple of years, and it's good that people are having the discussions now. That there's definitely been some cracks in there. Now, I know that you've been a big mental health advocate for a long time. I know you briefly talked about it on when you did your Eli's, I can never remember, Eli's Taxi podcast.
Eli's Uber, yeah.
Eli's Uber. I knew I was going to get a bloody wrong.
I forgot you would know about that. There you go.
I remember getting asked to be a guest, and I'm still waiting for that Uber ride, to be honest. Well, there it is. You know what I mean? You went and upgraded, mate. So listen, we'll do Billy's caravan or something. I don't know, down the line. But what has been your experiences? Because obviously you've had a lot going on yourself. I mean, becoming a wrestler as well. You're building a family, all that. You put yourself under a lot of pressure. What has been your experiences that you're comfortable talking with about your own mental health during this time? Because I know that you have addressed it. On our friends at oh my god, I went and forgotten the name of his podcast. That is terrible. Oh my goodness, I went and forgotten the name of his podcast. I'm Still Here Project.
Yes, Daniel's here.
Yeah, I'm Still Here Project. What has been your experiences during the last few years?
Well, I mean, it's definitely something that I've discovered in my later years, I've actually been dealing with since my early teens, but just through personal circumstances. But I've definitely been battling with anxiety and depression, which I was diagnosed properly about 4.5 years ago.
Wow.
I would say probably about 4.5 years ago. 3.5 years ago, sorry. I just happened to get my dates right then. 3.5
listen,
years
we
ago.
all lost a couple of years back there, so don't worry about it.
Tell me about it. I thought Thanos had done something to us.
Come on, let's keep it light. I don't think I've got a Thanos. No, I don't have a Thanos. No, I don't.
Man. But no, it's definitely something that I've had my own battles with. I think there's been a lot of things in my upbringing that brought that on. The biggest sort of moment where I realised I needed to help was when there was something went on with my best friend. He didn't die. We just had a big fallout. It's a long story, but it really made me feel isolated and stuff, and I went down this sort of dark hole. To the point I eventually admitted I needed help. Now, by that point, I was already in the wrestling scene.
That's right.
And there was... the initial words that somebody wiser than me told me was, don't let anybody know that there's anything going on, because it will show that you're weak. And it was very, very difficult at first to try and put a brave face on every time I turned up, every time. And it got to the point where it was a bit too much, and eventually I did have to say, guys, I'm not right. Like I've got issues just now. I need to take time away. I need to do this. And I will absolutely commend my coaches at the Glasgow Pro Wrestling Asylum, because they could not have been more facilitating with that. They couldn't have been more understanding of that, and it really took me by surprise just as to how well they looked after me with that. And it's the same with the trainees as well. Like I was expecting them to. Don't get me wrong, the ones that made the insensitive remarks no longer are there, but there's certainly ones who took that on board and sort of took me under the wing and made sure that I was doing okay. It's not to say that we don't all still have bad days. I mean, I've had my days on medication. I've been to counselling and things like that as well. But more importantly, I think the biggest thing I've learned over the last few years is to talk about it more, which is why I almost never shut up nowadays.
But we're in a very different place now, because it's interesting, because like I come from a background of all boys, rugby, all that type of thing, the west of Scotland. You're kind of bred not to talk, particularly when you're a guy. And I'm not having a go at the person that told you, it's like, don't tell anybody, it's a sign of weakness. From their point of view, that might have been the right advice to give. But here even we are in 2022. Obviously, we've had John Moxley from AEW. People might know as Dean Ambrose. He made his return after his addictions with, I think it was alcohol. And he's recently returned to wrestling and has been quite vocal about it. And he is kind of the definition of, he's basically Han Solo, if you like. He's basically Han Solo in pro wrestling. And he's been quite vocal about it, and other people have now. So we're in a very different place. And I think it's very positive that people are encouraging, like you say, your coaches kind of broke down that barrier, going, it's interesting to watch it over the last 20 years. And I can say that because I've got a bit of time on you. Barry. There's no two ways about it. We weren't at school together. I've got a bit of time on you.
We were not.
But it's interesting to see the development from people going like, no, you don't talk about this. You don't do that. And hey, it's still a thing. I myself, and I'll say this, I think that this might be a wee bit of a revelation on the show. I myself have just done some counselling. So it's interesting that where you are, but you deal with these things as you go forward. So what was the steps that you started taking? Was it really just opening up conversation with your peers in order to help dealing with it? Or what was the next kind of step for you?
I think so. I mean, it took me a bit of time to realise that I was in a bit of a slump. It's a hard one to explain. That you've probably been experienced it yourself, but you kind of, you know, you're not okay, but you don't know how not okay you are. And then eventually, I remember having a bit of a breakdown in front of my parents. My parents are very, very old-fashioned in the sense that, I mean, growing up in the East End of Glasgow, if someone committed suicide or anything like that, they were back then they were selfish. That was the way everybody looked at it. And I don't think this is no slight on those who do understand it, but I think a lot of the sort of generations before us too are probably still a bit naive to the mental health side of things. And I fully believe that that's the case with my parents. I don't think they quite realised. And it's bad because my dad himself, he definitely struggles with depression and anxiety. And it took him a long time to admit that. And even now, we still have difficulty, when he's having a low day, to get him to get the help he needs, because he's just too old-fashioned and stubborn. But I had the breakdown in front of them. And I realised that that's not where I was going to get the help, was not with them. And again, they've looked after me all my life. I love them dearly, but they were not the people to look after me for this sort of thing. So I went to the doctor, and originally started out on a course of medication. We started chatting about things a bit more. Once you started to hear the terminology coming, you do your own bit of research here and there. And then I didn't really go and get counselling until, both me and you know ourselves, we lost a friend in the wrestling world who took his own life. It wasn't till too long after that. I was out in the car driving, and I was at a really low point. I was driving my taxi at the time, and I still to this day do not know if it was a passenger or if it was a friend, but I found a note in the car, and it just had the number for a company called LifeLink, which is they look after people's mental health and other things. They're a counselling company basically, and that was the first step I took to sort of getting counselling. I've got a tattoo. I can't really show it to my headphones, but I've got a tattoo of a semicolon in the back of my ear. So I still don't know if someone's maybe seen that tattoo and went, this guy's been through his battles, here's a number, or if it's been a friend who's left it in my car. But whoever it is to this day, I thank them. So I'm very grateful.
So, because talking about, and then we are going to start pushing this in a really much more positive
Absolutely.
But it's one of those things, like when you are in that period, and I'm sure a lot of people will identify with this, and hopefully you're not in that place. When we actually post this later, I'm going to be putting a lot of I'm going to put some numbers and some details along it where you can reach out to people. That's what we want to do with this month. But when you are in that period, that darker period, you're kind of, the way I always kind of put it to people is like you're swimming in dark waters, and you kind of, for some reason, almost, you kind of want to stay there. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make, you almost become kind of addicted to it. Like you're clinging to a life raft and you go, well, if I stay here, then no one can know, nothing can change. And it's really odd. It's like an isolation tank. And nothing will change and nothing will happen. So if I just status quo, because you know that no one's coming to help you, but that doesn't make any sense because people will help you. And then, like you say, there needs to be that breakthrough moment of ba-bang, and then you're out there. And obviously, I think almost a positive from what happened a few years ago was some people in the wrestling community, especially, and in this sort of alternative scene, did actually start discussing things, which I thought was really good. And again, kudos to the coaches at GPWA, because to support people and to have those discussions, I think is hugely important. It's hugely important.
1,000,000%. Again, I've got a lot of gratitude for both the guys and girls there, and how they've looked after me. They know I'm sort of on a bit of a hiatus just now from wrestling to deal with the same sort of things. They know that I can't get too overwhelmed with life sometimes, but they know I'll be back as well. And they've gave. I'm only coming back because I want to wrestle, obviously, but at the same time, I'm only going back to them specifically because I know how well they look after the guys and girls. And
they know and they also understand that it's a work in progress. It's Absolutely. It's not like you watch one motivational video on YouTube and you're fine. You're fine.
Sylvester Stallone said it's not about how hard you can hit; it's how hard you can get hit.
That's it. We're all fixed. Everything's absolutely fine. Why am I paying for this therapy? I am good to go. How dare you? But and then you watch Toy Story 3 and you're like, oh fuck.
Here we go again. Do
you know, as a point of order, I actually always I never cry at the same bit that everyone else cries at in Toy Story 3. It's a true story.
Surely not.
Right. What's the bit you think is the sad bit?
They're all holding hands and shit.
I don't think that's the sad bit. I actually thought. Right,
I mean, I hope you don't think it's the funny bit because I'll be a bit concerned.
No. Oh yeah, the bit where I see. I said this out loud and people looked at me like I was a psychopath. It was like, no, I thought that was dead brave and honourable. They were all gonna meet. They all held hands and they were facing their That was how I got. Oh man, maybe I'll make some phone calls after this. The bit I got upset, the bit I thought was the sad bit is when Andy gave his toys away. And even that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Toys get another.
That was a sad bit. That was a sad bit, but no, I mean, when they're on the smell, oh man.
Well, I'm really worried, actually, because everyone I tell that to goes, what?
As long as you weren't laughing, going, you know.
No, I wasn't laughing. I mean, I was masturbating, but no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
I was almost about to say that's very Sid behaviour until you said that, but you know.
Well, if I shave off this beard and the hair and this t-shirt, basically I'm Sid. There's no two ways about it. But moving things in a positive direction, and I really want to, because you've been so vocal as well, and that was how it attracted my attention. Because I think I remember during this period I reached out to yourself, and that was why I wanted to get you on the show as well. Because while we're having people on who are we're talking to therapists, we're talking to Andy's Man's Club this month as well, because I really want to break that open a little bit. But you being very vocal about it is one of the coolest things that I thought was how you've taken it across different platforms. Like you were very vocal about it on I'm Still Here project, which is a fantastic podcast. I think they're taking a little hiatus just now, but I've got to say, head over and check it out. I miss the tag team of the grind. I'm just saying, I quite like the grind.
I miss the grind.
Great name, man. Great name for a tag team. Was all over that. But what is the steps that you yourself have been taking to look after yourself? Because the reason I say that is because when you are working nights on the doors and what have you, as well as the other things, I mean, obviously you're on Twitch, which is a lot of fun, as it means like that's one of the kids now. And you're gaming on Twitch. And what is it you're doing on Twitch yourself?
So I stream predominantly Grand Theft Auto, but it's a modded version of Grand Theft Auto, and people roleplay within that. So it's just basically being another character. So there's so much that they can do. It's everything's set up so that people can have, they can be the police against so it's basically a good game of cops and robbers, but you've got the police, you've got the criminal underworld that they've all formed their own gangs and stuff. You've got people who want to just do their civilian duties, you've got people who run stores, nightclubs, things like that. So I stream predominantly in there. There's two cities that I play, one called the Scoring Network, which is like a predominantly British one, predominantly Scottish to be honest, but there is a lot of British people in total. And then we also have another one called No Pixel, which is a very popular American server, which is almost like the VIP list. It's very difficult to get into that city. I'm lucky enough that I'm in that city, hanging about with the big time streamers with thousands of views and stuff. But people love it, man, and I enjoy it as well because you know yourself, like when you get to become a character, you're kind of escaping for a little bit, and being someone else for those couple hours a night, which is same with presenting really. But I gotta admit, I enjoy you. I enjoy you dealing with trolls and just other nuggets within there. It's always been you're very good at dealing with trolls. I have to admit, you tend to be quite good at either embarrassing people or shutting them down quite quick. I'm always quite impressed. I try and do it in a respectful way, where it can be, rather than going, I see people resorting to insulting them or picking up on something personal. Or I like the old, sarcastic comment, or and just putting them down that way. It works. Well, it's very dad behavior or very uncle behavior. I have to say, it's like it's not that I'm angry. I'm disappointed, and you can practically hear people on the other side of the world going, "Oh fuck." Exactly, and that is what I love about it. It's even on the doors, man. I love that tactic of letting when people kick off, and I would much rather talk someone out the door than drag them out the door. Fortunately, it does happen sometimes, but talking them out the door is the best thing. And there's nothing. See, when they're standing in front of a group of friends trying to make a scene, and you got, big man, you're making an ass of yourself. Come on, and they're like, yeah, I'm making an ass of myself. They just go along with you. It's great, honestly. I think one of the best things I ever saw Bouncer do was kind of similar to, you're making an ass of yourself. Yeah.
Sorry. It's like just getting completely brought down to earth. It's like in your head, this is the scene from the movie, and you think this is like fucking Roadhouse or something, but realistically, or never go down or whatever those fucking stupid fraternity fighting movies are. But in reality, we are standing in a corridor of a pub, and nobody's watching. Nobody's watching.
It's like Begbie in Trainspotting when he throws the pint glass and he's like, nobody leaves till we find out who does it. Like, if that, you, big man, we know it was you. Come on, like, we saw you do it. We've got cameras. Come on.
What would happen in real life is he wouldn't have got the end of the sentence out. Right, nobody's boom, 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 and he's down.
4 guys on him. That's it.
Yeah. It's like, good luck to you, pal. Good luck to you. But I mean, that's good. You must have some incredible stories from working on the doors over the last 11 years since you were 18. I've got to say, what possessed you at that age to go on the doors? Just a big dude ready to kick some ass, or what possessed you in order to do that?
Believe it or not, I was actually very baby-faced and very skinny when I first went on the doors.
I've seen the pictures. I had a look.
Yeah. I first went on the doors purely because of the money aspect, to be honest with you. There was good money at the time. One of my friends that I went to college with convinced me it was a good idea. I was already working my own wee retail job and stuff. I ended up doing 3 jobs alongside each other, 2 security jobs and keeping my retail job. So for an 18-year-old, I was... Plus, I was getting my college payments, so I was doing all right, man. I was doing all right. I just, I had during the week to enjoy it, and then at the weekend was when I worked. It was a bit of a backwards lifestyle for a student, but I sort of fell into it through a good friend of mine, Dave McCabe, who took me on. My first gig, he got me my first job as well in a karaoke bar in town as well.
Shanghai Shuffle?
Cosmopole on Holt Street.
Oh, so nice. Oh, is that still there?
It is. They've just opened back up after a refurb, so they have just opened back up. But that was my first gig, and then I've been doing it on and off ever since. But I'm very, very happy with doing what I'm doing just now up in Old Sucky Hall Street.
Let me ask you this question then, and genuinely from a doorman point of view or security point of view, let me ask you this question. What is the group of people coming over that hill that you go, oh, for fuck's sake? And by that, I mean, is it a stag night? Is it a hen night? Is it a group of lads? Is it people in business suits going out for a drink? Is it a works night out at Christmas? What is the group of people that you do? You just find yourself cricking the neck and going, all right, here we go.
It's the hen night.
There it is.
Stag nights are predictable. But generally speaking, most stag nights, people are respectful and things like that. I've had high heels kicked into my shins. I've had them thrown at me. I've been hit with handbags. I've had drinks poured. The first time I ever got punched on the doors was by a woman.
Nice.
I really didn't know how to react at the time, but see when they're in good spirit. Like when a hen party's in good spirits, you can have a really good night, but all it takes is one wrong comment from someone within the group, and then there's drama within that group. You have it to step in. And then before you know it, they're pulling each other's hair. And I've had that recently. And it was definitely a hen party, which is when you said it, it came to my mind right away. But I mean, by and large, it's usually okay. The other thing that when we get a 21st birthday party or an 18th birthday party, that's an interesting night. Always an interesting night.
I take it that's when we're double, triple checking IDs and stuff as well. Do people still?
Oh, absolutely.
Odd question to ask, but this is from my generation, I guess. Do people still do fake IDs? Do they still try fake IDs?
Oh yeah, we had someone recently, well, about a couple of months ago now, but we had someone with a passport, and when we've looked at the passport, it was a bit too shiny. So I kind of put my thumbnail to it, and it started to come up. Basically, what they'd done is they'd taken their sister's passport and they'd sellotaped a photo of themselves. This was a guy. But the guy, the name was Sam, right? So they've put their own photo on it, and it was like there's something just not right about it. And I didn't even notice like the bit that had been covered up, and they've tried to make it look like Mister instead of Miss. Right. But I've peeled it all off, and I went, right, McMahon, I'm taking the ID. You'll need to get someone to come. Oh, come on, mate, please. Like, I was like, you need to get somebody to come and get it, mate. You're not getting it. I said, if you want, I'll hand it to the police. Oh, don't hand it to the police. My mum will go off her head. I went, well, I said, she'll need to come and get it. Oh, mate, she spent ages making that for me. I was like... So the boy's mum took his sister's ID and turned it into his ID.
Mum, I've had an idea. Son, that's a cracking idea to get you out of the house. Hand that over.
Go and get me the sellotape. Come on. Honestly.
That's amazing. I think back in my day, you'd always get people trying to use the most random things as ID. Was always my personal favorite. Like, you get people go, "Here's my library card, mate," and it's like, that's just a library card. There's no picture. There's a signature on that.
People do that with a bank card more than you know. Like, honestly, the amount of people, if they don't have ID, but I've got my bank card, and it's like, right, you trying to bribe me, or like, I have a card machine, mate? But yeah, we definitely get some fake IDs. But to be honest, we've all done it. I done it, man. I was in the pubs from I was 15 until I was 18 using a fake ID. And the only time my mates, I say fake ID, it was my mates, and the only time it failed me was a week before my 18th birthday.
Oh, what?
3 years of using it, and the week before my 18th birthday, the bloody bouncers from show second at the ABC turned around and told me it wasn't me. And then I went back the following week with my own ID. So it was fine.
If any of them's watching, shame on you. At least that's better than the people that you will turn around till I go, oh, I can't believe it. I got ID'd for cigarettes today. And you're like, no, you didn't.
I know. I read Bull. No. I read Bull.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is a bit weird. Oh, the people that won't even look at you. The people that won't like, oh, you don't need your ID checked, mate. Those crow's feet, you can put pound coins in that. There you go. Yeah.
I had a guy. I thought he'd have took it in good humour. It's a line I've used many, many times. But you get the odd, the group coming up, you start IDing some of them, and then there's clearly the older person in the group, so you don't ID them. And they go, am I not getting ID'd? And I'll turn around and go, have you got your bus pass? So I hit them with that, right? 9 out of 10 times it gets a laugh. Oh my days, this guy must have had some real sensitive issues around his age, man, because when I said it, he tried to fly for me and ended up not getting in the club. He was so offended. It's like, have you got your bus pass? I'm not that old. I was like, oh, Jesus, man, I thought you did.
Oh, God, he was Wayne Lineker or something like that.
Well, could have been, to be fair. He had a similar look.
Well, I was about to say, I don't. Do you know I didn't understand what Wayne Lineker was. Like, if nobody knows it, I wish I had a picture ready. But I finally asked somebody, here, was Wayne Lineker what does Wayne Lineker do apart from be Gary Lineker's brother? And like, no, he's just kind of Wayne Lineker. And it's like, I don't get it.
What is a Wayne Lineker? And you'll find it.
What does he do? Just Google that and you'll just go, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. And he's had so much work done, but never mind that. One of the things I did want to ask you, and we're bringing it back to mental health a wee bit as we're getting ready to bring this into land, so to speak. What would be your advice to people? Now, here we are, two guys having a discussion 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This would never have happened. Like, that, we would have been actively discouraged from this. So it's good that we're in this place, particularly coming out of the last 2 bloody years. Yeah. But what would be your advice, having lived that life for a long time as well before you were really able to unpack it? What would be your advice to someone on a couple of different levels? Like, so first of all, you're in the middle of it. You've had no interactions with anybody. You've not had the discussion. What's your advice we'll call that stage 1? What would be your advice for that?
It's very easy just to say talk, but it's important that you talk to the right people. I think is the biggest point. I mean, you do have friends, but not every friend is going to know how to deal with that on the same way as a counsellor would or a GP would. And it's not to say you need to go straight to counselling. There might be things before then that can put you on the right path. But I think it is important to make sure you're talking to the right type of people who will will look after you. Some people might find it overwhelming when you speak to them as well. So don't take that too personally if you think someone that's maybe been a close friend for years. Granted, they should sort of point in the right direction, or they'll at least try and help, but they might not get it. So again, that's why I say make sure you're talking to the right people about it.
You also don't know, not to chip in too often on this, but you also don't know what's going on in their life. It might just be overwhelming for them at that time, and I can understand that. That.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that is why I say make sure you're talking to the right people about it rather than just. I mean, I do talk in a general sense very publicly about it, but I also know from experience now who's sort of there. Like, I mean, Daniel when I did this podcast, like, Daniel's always been wanting to check in on me, and I've always kind of tried to do the same with him because I know he has his own battles as well. And we can both sort of work with experience from each other, and because both of us have been through a similar path with counselling and stuff. So we both can kind of work together when we're both feeling low and sort each other out on different days, But yeah, definitely say talking to the right people.
Definitely. So, and then we come to, it's almost a very personal thing in the respect of what is it you do when you find yourself having one of those days? And we can all have one of those days. It is not a quick fix, even if you go through high intense therapy or anything along those lines. It's not a quick fix overnight. You've got to put the work in. What's the thing like? Even, I mean, I meditate, which people find hilarious. Some people find hilarious, but I don't take it personally. It's like, well, I meditate. Oh, what do you mean you meditate? I meditate. So that tends to be my reaction to it.
Quite
it's
right.
Like, you go upstairs, you wipe your arse. I meditate. That's how it works.
Exactly.
It's part of. I don't meditate instead of wiping my arse, just in case anybody's wondering. But what is it you do when you find yourself having one of those days that maybe you've not gone too far under, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what is it you do in order to try and maybe lift yourself, so to speak?
There's been a few things, and unfortunately, I think that's why I definitely had my issues during COVID, was because a lot of these things got shut down, and I had to find new ways, which I think, to be honest, firstly, streaming has helped me take my mind off things and whatever, but just even sometimes not streaming and just going in and playing the video games and stuff, and playing what I want to play, because I don't always want to play GTA, sometimes I want to go and play other games, but when I'm streaming, they're expecting GTA, and I've noticed that. So sometimes I'll just go and play what I want to play for a couple hours, turn my brain off, and just play, Call of Duty or whatever, just mindless, gaming, nothing really to focus on. However, the things that I definitely missed the most were two things. I missed going to the cinema. I used to go by myself if I was feeling low. I had my unlimited cards, and especially when I was driving the Uber, if it was a quiet day, I would just go and check in, watch a film, and sometimes I'd see the same film 3 times when it was out. Like, I mean, I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I think I went to see that 4 times when it came out. And same with Endgame, I went to see that 3 times. Like, just because I couldn't. That last half hour would just fucking cripple me. I couldn't keep living through that. The other big thing.
Tell you this, I saw that in the same cinema as ADM, and a pair of us were bawling. And if you are watching, mate, you know full well the pair of us were bawling. So. Point of order.
I understand it. I totally understand it, though. The other thing I definitely missed was, and it's easy to say, like, I'm still a bit of a big bloke, but I do like going to the gym. And one of the gym that I went to, I would go and I had a wee routine. I would work out. I would go downstairs to the pool. They would have the steam room, the sauna, the jacuzzi, and the pool. And I would just work my way through them before going out to the lounger. And I would just lie on the lounger for a good half an hour and just switch off and just almost meditate, I guess, like just process things. And I used to do that daily, that full routine. I would give myself at least 2.5 hours a day just to do that, and I think that helped significantly. When COVID came along, you couldn't go into saunas, you couldn't do anything like that, and I definitely missed that feel of it. And to be honest, it's something I really need to get back on track with, is going into that. I need to rejoin that gym and go back to that gym, because that was, I'm not going to be dramatic and say it was a saviour, but it was definitely, it kept things balanced. Absolutely. Yeah,
it keeps things on the rails. Just because it's something like that doesn't make it a bad thing. Although I do miss saunas. I do admit, I used to quite enjoy a post-gym steam room, and I don't know if they're back open yet. It's one of those. I've
been told that mine's is, but it's kind of, you need to book your time in. So there's not too many people in. So I'm going to look in. In fact, I'm going to look into that this week. That's on my to-do list now.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. And whoever gym it is, you guys are welcome. I expect a check there. That I've sent. This has all been an elaborate thing to get to rejoin. There's no two ways. There's no two ways about it.
I knew it.
But in terms of the future, and like you say, it seems like you're dealing with this. You're in a positive place going into 2022. Not necessarily an easy thing to do when you see the headlines and everything that's going on just now. There's only so much we can do. But what would be? I mean, you mentioned talking to people and the streaming and what have you. But what would be like your sign off? If anyone here was kind of struggling right now, or they're maybe not even aware, or this is a long-term thing, is it opening up? Because you get guys like Tyson Fury, for example, who's been a huge advocate, I think, particularly amongst men, for his struggles. I mean, I can remember a point where people went, "Oh, the end is nigh for Tyson." Sorry, I think I said Tyson Kidd. I meant Tyson Fury.
No, he said Fury. That's right.
I did Fury, right? Sorry, Tyson Kidd's watching. Big fan of cats. That's all I know about him, really. But Tyson Fury. I mean, at one point, people I remember there was a picture of him in I think the Blue Lagoon in Glasgow, and there he was, like nearly 30 stone or something. He was not in a great place, and he kind of turned it around. What do you think? Is it the time for people just to open up and just start reaching out for help? Because you mentioned something, and it was just to pinpoint on it a wee second, that sometimes your friends and your family aren't the people to talk to because they're too close, and they're kind of caught in those waters with you, but they're in a boat and you're just swimming. What do you think is what would be your advice to anyone watching right now, and they maybe think, some of this is sounding familiar, like anxiety and depression have this weird kind of thing where they're almost latching onto each other a little.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're so right, and I think the point I was trying to get across with that was that there's always an option for you. Other than the sad side of it, there is always an option for help. You just need to figure out where that help is. So don't just give up on that. I think that's kind of where I was going with that. I think, again, by us speaking about it publicly and openly on platforms like this, it's going to help normalize a lot of things. I always say to people's got vices, man. Everybody's got a vice, and I think it's okay to admit that and acknowledge that. And if we do acknowledge that, people will get more help. And that's not just on the mental health side. That's gambling, drug addiction, drinking. Everyone's got a vice in some kind, and I think it's important that everybody realizes that so that they can talk about it. There's definitely help out there, but also, again, I think it's important to say, find something that's just for you, that makes you feel good, that you can rely on when you do feel like there's no one else here. Again, for me, that is going to the gym and going for my sauna and whatever else. But try and find that little place for yourself. Absolutely. So
let me ask you this final question, Barry Carruthers.
Yes.
When are we going to see Eli Bulworth back in the ring? Now, I feel attached to Eli because within the world of ICW, I think Eli was my bodyguard or something.
There was something spun there.
There was something in there. I don't even remember, but it was definitely something in there. And I'm sure there's a random video cut about somewhere where for some reason they put us in charge of security of the queue. I don't remember why. You were really the one that was in charge of security of the queue. I was just there encouraging you. Although I do remember you shouting at a lady in a pram once, which I thought was fucking hilarious. You're not getting in the queue, mate. I don't think she's getting in the queue, Eli. Well, she better know. Did you jump?
I'm just going to check, right? Hopefully soon, Billy. It's been on my own end. Like there's mental health aspects to this as well, but I took a bit of time away initially. To deal with a few things going on at home, and it got to the point where I'd been away for that long that merging back in has been a bit difficult for me in terms of nobody's making me feel unwelcome at any point, but just up here. So I'm still dealing with that. That's probably the one thing that I'm still dealing with a lot, and it's hard because I love wrestling. I love ICW. I love GPWA. I want to wrestle everywhere and anywhere. I'm determined by the first half of this year that I'll have a match. But I need to get myself back in ring shape. So been doing a bit of the odd appearances. I was on Ravy Davies' show more as the bodyguard rather than properly wrestling. So that's still giving me the little taste that I still want to do this. But I just need to get over that mental block, I think, is a big thing. So that's definitely on my list as well.
Would you ever have an interest in pro wrestling? I mean, like, and this is, I wasn't expecting to do this in the world of the podcast, but I mean, obviously you're on there, you're doing podcasts, you're streaming every night, communicating, you're smart, you're articulate. We're talking like that. You ever had any designs on broadcasting or anything like that? Putting on the old headset?
I would do it. I would absolutely do it. If someone gave me that chance, I would definitely take them up on that. So I'll.
Very interesting.
I'm not coming for your job, don't worry. But I would definitely.
Oh, you're not getting my job, but very.
Sorry, James.
Interesting, very interesting. Listen, Barry, it's been an absolute blast, and I appreciate you taking the time and sharing things with us. Sometimes it wasn't easy stuff to discuss, but that's what we wanted to do with this month. We wanted to open up a little bit. Where can people find you online? Obviously, the big thing right now is streaming. Where can people find you online right now?
So you can find me on twitch.tv/BravoCharlie125. You can find me on Twitter at Eli Bulwark, which is my wrestling one as well. And you can find me on Eli Bulwark on Facebook for my wrestling platform. So thank you very much for having me and letting me plug those. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Anytime. Well, listen, I'm going to pop you back in the green room and I'm going to finish up things here with the boys and girls on Braw Cast. Everyone, our incredible guest this week. Let's hear it for the wonderful Mr. Barry Carruthers, a.k.a. Eli Bulwark. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
Right, talk to you in a second. Right. That's all we've got time for in this episode of Braw Cast. This is going to be an interesting one. We've got some really brilliant guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. We've got some therapists. We've got some other people. We've got the guys from Andy Mann's Club. Some incredible stuff coming this month. I think you're going to want to make sure to check out every episode. Don't forget, though, you can check out all the archived episodes that we have. Like I say, we've talked to some weird and wonderful people from all around the world and loads of different topics, loads of different things. You'll learn something every week and you'll laugh every week here on Braw Cast. So make sure to head over and check all that stuff out. And, of course, nip over to Braw Beard Oils. Get yourself some oils, some brushes, some hats, some beanies, the coasters. I think we've got coasters. I don't think we've got coasters. Get yourself your knee supports. We don't have knee supports. Get yourself your Braw Soda Stream. You can get a Braw Soda Stream now if you're for the past. Get busy with a fizzy. Not a thing. Right, I've been Billy Kirkwood. You can make sure to check me out at Billy Kirkwood Comedian on all the social media platforms, and we will see you next week on Braw Cast. Now, here's the inevitable thing where I try and finish up the show without looking at the video, and I fucked it. I've completely fucked it. So we'll see you next week. Look after yourselves, and don't forget, you can still buy tickets for Braw Cast Live, February 19th. Details in the comments. See you later.